Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Meshegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proceed, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends. Hello. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Today is Saturday, December 14th of 2024. I can't believe the year's almost over. There's like not a lot of time left. 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. Today's a great day to not go anywhere. I've been out today in my car and I wish I didn't have to go anywhere today because it's the day when everybody is driving so slowly. You just can't get there from here. Remember that? Who's that comedian that used to say, you can't get there from here? Well, this is an incredibly disturbing story that I'm going to bring to you today. An incredibly disturbing story for those of you who haven't heard about it. And I'm going to just give you a blanket viewer discretion advised. You might not want to have your kids in the room. You might not want to have your headphones off. I'm going to be as, sensitive as I can to it. We'll use some fake words and some initials and stuff. But this is mind-blowing, in my opinion. Very handsome, very wealthy, very privileged men who feel like they can just do whatever they want and they're never going to get caught. And we see this story again and again and again. And I'm just going to tell you that the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York is not going to play. He's not going to play. Same guy who's prosecuting Diddy. So if you didn't hear about this story, there's a reason for that. Well, number one, Monday is the day that Daniel Penny was acquitted. So we covered that all day. So many other things have happened this week. Luigi Mangione has been caught in Pennsylvania, waiting to extradite him back to New York. There's no indictment on him yet. These three brothers were arrested and in Florida, and they're going to be extradited to New York on federal charges, which, if you don't know about it, may blow your mind. Jay-Z was brought into the whole P. Diddy stuff civilly. I covered that with Josh Ritter this week. If you guys didn't see it, I think I posted it in my community page. So while we wait for a couple of people to come in, too privileged. It's like they didn't have enough money. These guys were like, they made the guys on $1 million listing look like paupers. That's how rich these guys are. This has nothing to do with P. Diddy. No, nothing to do with P. Diddy, except for they are going to be prosecuted by the same federal prosecutor. Because this is such a sensitive subject, and because YouTube doesn't always like when I talk about sensitive subjects, it's a really great thing that we have a sponsor today for this show. So we're going to listen to a quick word from our sponsor, Aura. And while we're talking about Luigi Mangione, or just, in passing, remember that United Healthcare had one of the biggest, most extensive data breaches not too long ago, within the past couple of months. And we've talked about that as well. And so your private information is out there on the dark web. Most importantly, your parents might fall prey to some of these scams out there. if their identities are stolen. And so this free 2-week trial of Aura may be a great holiday gift for your parents who may not be as savvy as you are when it comes to knowing whether or not your private information has been hacked. Let's take it, listen to a quick word from our sponsor, and then I will be right back to continue this story about the bros, the Alexander bros. Today's video is sponsored by Aura, and it's a really important time to be talking about them because hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. Over 2.9 billion records were stolen from National Public Data, which offers personal information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and others doing background checks. These stolen records include a person's full name, address, date of birth, social security number, and phone number, along with alternate names and birth date. And members of this hacker group have reportedly released this information on the dark web for free. I don't know if you've ever had your identity stolen, but I've had clients who've had their identity stolen. And not only is it a major hassle, but oftentimes before you find out, it's too late. The damage can take years to undo, and it's a hassle that you definitely do not want to deal with. So if you haven't been taking precautions before with your personal information online, this should be a huge wake-up call. You've never been more vulnerable online than you are right now. But I'm not too worried about it because I use Aura. Aura alerts me if they find my phone number, my email, my social security number, or any other personal information on the dark web. They're going to let me know fast if anyone tries to use this information to access my credit or bank accounts. They give me up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. They also provide a bunch of other features to keep you safe online, all inside one app. And you can go to my link at www.aura.com/Melanie Little to try it for free for 14 days. That'll be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information or data has been exposed. I highly recommend you do this right now because not only is National Public Data not going to do anything to help you, they probably aren't even going to face any repercussions for this breach. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, you want to go to my link, www.aura.com/Melanie Little, to try 2 weeks for free. You can thank me later. You can thank me later. All right. Back to the Alexander brothers, my friends. I'm going to try and talk about this using code words. Let's just say that S is going to stand for sexual. Grape is going to be the other word that sounds like the last 4 letters of such things. And it's hard to avoid these words because they're all over the documents, the federal indictment in New York, as well as the detention letter that was sent by the Department of Justice for the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York to Florida. So some of you who have been watching this case may be confused. There are state charges that have been brought in Florida against these 3 brothers, and there are federal charges that have been brought in New York against these 3 brothers. And so while they may have been able to post a couple of $1 million bond each in Florida, they will not be released because New York wants them back. New York wants them back on federal charges, and this is going to be interesting. Because it's federal court and because it's New York, it's not going to be televised, so we're going to have to rely on court watchers and other things. But this is a wild story. So these 2 brothers, they're twins, okay? Oren and Alon, Alon, 37 years old. They have a brother named Tal who's older than they are by about 11 months. We call that sometimes when kids are born within 11 months, Irish twins. These guys are like Irish triplets. So they're not Irish, they're Jewish, and they have dual citizenship in Israel, which is another reason why the U.S. attorney is saying you cannot release them, because if they go to Israel, Israel will not extradite them for years. It will take years. Oren and Tal, who is one of the twins and the older brother, started this huge real estate company, brokerage firm. They serve clients in New York City, Miami, the Hamptons, and Aspen. And apparently these two brothers were unparalleled once, not anymore. They've fallen from grace among New York City brokers. And over the past decade, Oren and Tal have been among the most successful real estate agents in the country, serving clients and celebrities and ultra wealthy net worth individuals for at least the past decade. Among them are Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin, Kanye, and coincidentally Jay-Z, and former New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady. Their father, Shlomi Alexander, built a real estate empire in South Florida, which provided Oren and Tal wealth and connections for building their own business. In 2019, the Alexander brothers recorded the most expensive residential real estate sale in U.S. history. And that was a $238 million apartment at 220 Central Park South in Manhattan. Some of you may remember when that apartment was sold. The brothers got their start at Douglas Elliman, but left the firm in 2022 to found Official Partners, a luxury real estate agency affiliated with white label brokerage Side. Though they were born into considerable wealth, their success pushed their net worth close to 9 figures. Alon Alexander, who is one of the other twin, worked for Kent Security, which is a private security company founded by their parents. When I was doing my deep dive into this, and I've been working on this for a couple of days for you guys, there's so much out there. So much out there has also been scrubbed from the internet, including their company website and a lot of links that stories will link to. But just as one small example of what was going on with these brothers before they were able to scrub this stuff. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. And this is a story in the New York Post from 2013. And this is a story about, well, which brother is this? Oren, one of the twins. It's like an opinion piece on him, or not even an opinion piece, just like a puff piece about how great he is. And he talks about, this is from 2013. My father is a residential developer, and I started seeing his work at a very young age, checking out incredible construction and architecture while my friends were doing math homework. Real estate became my greatest interest, and after graduating from University of Colorado, he's not giving us a very good name right now, us buffs, I moved to New York to work in the industry. What I also found interesting was that his father is a residential developer in Florida, and his father would build these like $47 million homes and then give them to his sons to list. So they came from a lot of money, and then they continued to make their own money. 6% of 230 million is a lot of money. So it talks about how he went into real estate and how his first deal happened in March of 2009 when he was working for Douglas Elliman, and he sold an $8.175 million penthouse at the Park Imperial when he was only 21 years old. Everything got better from there. And apparently money was not enough for these guys. I'm so blown away by the arrogance, the entitlement, and when you hear what they did, it's just, you had so much, you had everything you could possibly want. Why would you risk everything for these heinous, disgusting things that he and his brothers were doing? So it gives you a little bit of an idea of what started happening when this guy was 21 years old. It says here, my father, Shlomi Alexander, built the first trophy house I sold. That's the $47 million house. He's built about 12 homes, but this is the first time we work together. Now we have more projects in the works. And he goes on and on to talk about how he lives the life of his clients. His partner also happens to be his brother, Tal. He's 11 months older than me. We joined forces about 2 years ago. Remember, this is when he's like in his early 20s. He says, this is my time to bring in business after work hours are over. My clients go to these absurdly expensive and elite places that no one can get into. I have my in. While my nights are late and some may call me a party boy, it's all about closing deals. And my team never stops working either. Yeah, they're married too. Yep, they are married. And here at their bail hearing, because you want to get a look at what these guys look like. Jesse Weber did a little piece. I'm just going to play a little piece of it. This was their bail hearing or bond hearing in Florida for the state charges. And just take a look at like how smarmy they look and how they're like, they think this is like a joke and they're just going to get out of this. Let's listen to Jesse Weber because he doesn't strike me the way some of the other AP did this week about playing 20 seconds of a clip of Daniel Penny outside or walking into the courthouse. But it's okay. I edited it out.
Today, the twin brothers, Oren and Alon, appeared in Miami court today to face those state charges, and they entered not guilty pleas. Take a look.
So based on the written plea, not guilty and the demand for discovery, they're arraigned today. That's for the purpose of the plea.
And Judge, that should be in all cases, just for the record. Oren Alexander has 3 cases pending. It's F24-25503A, F24-25504, and F24-25507. The state has filed felony informations on all 3 cases. And we have
the charge in the arrest warrant is the same charge as the information.
yes, correct. And then
just to clarify, these are the state charges in Florida. So she's going to say they're eligible for bail, but there's a federal hold on them and they're not going to get out. So don't freak out. Thank you, Sherry, for gifting 5 memberships, and to whoever were gifted them randomly by YouTube. Welcome.
Alon Alexander is charged in F24-25503B as the co-defendant with Mr. Oren Alexander and a third co-defendant who has not yet been apprehended.
And Oren and Alon also each secured bonds of $3 million and $2 million respectively. And it's interesting arrangement here because that comes with their bail packages. Those bonds are being secured by their father's estate in Bal Harbor.
Sure. For Alon
Yeah, he owns a $47 million home in Bal Harbor, the dad.
Alexander, which is again F24-25503B, the defendant will put up a personal surety of $2 million that will be secured with their home. 400 a mortgage. Hold on, let me read this. The home at 248 Bal Bay Drive in Bal Harbor, Florida. There will be a corporate surety amount of $25,000. Alon Alexander shall be confined to house arrest.
And this goes on for a little while. If you're interested in it, you can find it. It's their bail hearing, and it's around YouTube. You can find it. But what I found interesting is one of the brothers says at one point during the hearing, well, Judge, you have to let me out. You have to give me bail because my wife is 9 months pregnant. She's expecting our baby any day, and she expects me to be there with her when she goes into labor. Yeah. Good luck with that, sir, bro. The Wednesday morning arrest, so that was just this past Wednesday, December 11th, according to Bloomberg News, was incredibly dramatic. The scene of Oren Alexander's arrest mirrored that of a Hollywood movie, they say. Acting on search warrants, the FBI and Miami police knocked down the gates of Oren's waterfront property and knocked out security cameras. At about 6 a.m. Eastern, agents used a bullhorn and called on Oren to surrender, a demand that lasted about an hour. A number of passerbys watched the scene unfold. A grocery delivery man was turned away by law enforcement, but he took a picture to show he made an attempt to deliver. I guess I'll be keeping these groceries for myself, the man told Bloomberg. Here's another interesting thing. Oren's wedding to a model was featured in Vogue magazine. Yep, it was. His wedding was in 2023. Married to model Camilla Hansen. And I mean, seriously, really, dude, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Some of these allegations predate his marriage, but she goes on to talk about how they met in here, which is going to be hauntingly familiar as we go through the documents. She told Vogue magazine, model Camilla Hansen and official partners, co-founder Oren Alexander's relationship began the old-fashioned way with a pickup line. I was in Las Vegas on a girls' trip when he approached me in a hotel lobby and asked if I was lost. Camilla remembers of the meeting in 2018. Some of these allegations are going to go all the way up to 2021. It was just like that. The two began dating soon afterwards, and Oren eventually proposed while they were on vacation in Aspen in August of 2022. It happened on the balcony of the house we were staying in, Camilla recalls. It was very casual, and surprisingly, I had no idea. They had a beautiful wedding the following April, so that would have been April of 2023 in Isla Mirada, Florida. And they did everything. And she's the one who's 9 months pregnant right now. And how horrific is this for her and for the wives of the brothers as well? Absolutely WTF time. What are we doing here? Well, I don't know. Too much money. It's beyond. It's beyond. Well, the other thing that happened this week that we haven't talked about yet is the Duke lacrosse accuser recanting her story, admitting that she lied. Something else we need to get into, but that's not for this stream. So the most interesting part of the writing here, there's an indictment. We can look at that second. But the first thing I want to look at here is the reason why they're not going to be let out on bail in Florida. And the reason for that is because New York wants them back. And New York wrote a letter to the judge in Florida, the New York U.S. attorney. And we're going to go through that. I'm going to blanket trigger warn you that this is a sensitive topic. I've tried to redact everything that's potentially too graphic for YouTube to even allow. But just forewarn yourselves, if your kids are in the room, you might want to put your earbuds in for this. And this is a letter from the U.S. Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, dated just December 11th. I'm not sure when it hit the docket. It hit the docket in federal court, actually, on the same day, the 11th. This is a letter to the Honorable Valerie Caproni, who is a U.S. District Judge in the Southern District of New York, and the Honorable Lizette Reed, who is a U.S. Magistrate Judge in the Southern District of Florida. So this is the similar situation where New York wants somebody in custody in another state to be extradited back to New York. Just like we're seeing in Luigi Mangione. And we've seen in a couple of other cases lately as well. Here we go. This is regarding the U.S. versus Alon Alexander, Oren Alexander, and Tal Alexander. Dear Judge Caproni and Judge Reed, the government respectfully submits this letter in advance of the initial appearance of the Alon Alexander, Oren Alexander, and Tal Alexander, collectively the defendants or the Alexander brothers, who were arrested earlier today in the Southern District of Florida. And then we see footnote 1, and I love footnotes, so we're going to footnote 1. Alon and Oren Alexander were arrested on state charges issued by the Miami-Dade County State Attorney's Office and are presently in state custody. They'll be transferred into federal custody after their initial appearance on the state charges. Thank you, Shari, for gifting another 5 memberships. Look at you. And I just want to break from that to say, so Shari's gifted 10. So there's 10 lucky people who have been blessed with Shari's generosity today. And Miami-Dade, I just started watching, in case you guys were not aware that this has come out. Something else out of Miami-Dade is the precursor to the original Dexter series has dropped on Showtime. It's the first episode only. It's Dexter as a young, well, not young. I guess he's like a teenager and in his 20s. He's in medical school. And so far, only one episode is out so far. But check it out. Also happened in Miami-Dade County where he worked for the police department. If you may recall, Dexter. See, Shari knows what I'm talking about. And his dad is played by, guess who? Christian Slater. So that's pretty amazing too. Was Christian Slater the original American Psycho? Just a side note. Yeah, so the first episode's out. Don't go watch it now. Watch it later. Miami-Dade County reminded me of that. All right, back to the document. The defendants were taken into custody after a grand jury sitting in the Southern District of New York returned a 3-count indictment charging them with sex trafficking offenses. I thought I bleeped out every word, but I didn't. As alleged in the indictment, and described further herein, for approximately 2 decades, the Alexander brothers have essayed, trafficked, and forcibly raped dozens of women. After relying on their substantial wealth and connections to carry out and conceal their crimes for years, all 3 defendants now face charges carrying potential sentences in prison of 15 years to life. You're going to see as we go through this that it goes all the way back to their high school days. There's at least, I think, 40 victims who have come forward so far. And maybe the fact that this is now happening is going to give some more women the courage to come out, if in fact it's true, because, innocent until proven guilty. But as we go through some of the evidence, just some of the evidence that the grand jury went through, we're going to see how sick this is. For these reasons, and as detailed below, there is no condition or combination of conditions that will reasonably assure the appearance of the defendants as required and the safety of others in the community. The defendants cannot overcome the statutory presumption in favor of detention in this case, and the court should order them detained. Background. On December 11th, 2024, a superseding indictment was returned by a federal grand jury sitting in the Southern District of New York. The indictment was unsealed, charging 1, Oren Alon Alexander with participating in a ST, we're going to call sex trafficking, ST conspiracy from at least 2010 through at least 2021 in violation of 18 U.S.C. section 1594, C, count 1. 2, Tall with ST, victim number 1 in 2011 in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1591 A and B, 1 and 2, count 2. And 3, Alon Oren Tall with ST ing, victim 2 in 2016 in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1591 A and B, 1 and 2, count 3. Footnote number 2 says, because the investigation is active and ongoing, the government is limited in the amount of information that it can publicly reveal at this time. To the extent the court has additional questions about the charged offense, conduct, or any other information set forth herein, the government is prepared to proffer additional information on an ex parte basis. That simply means that they're not prepared at this time to make public all of the allegations against these guys, but you can rest assured that they have something like 40 victims, I think, have come forward so far. And this is very, very sparse for a reason, just to make sure they're detained in Florida. It was Christian Bale. It was Christian Bale, right? Who am I thinking of? So Christian Bale was the original American Psycho. Christian Slater is the one who I think is playing Dexter's dad. Mixed up my Christians. That happens. And that was footnote 2. Point A, the Alexander brothers STing scheme The charged offenses span more than a decade of ST activity by the Alexander brothers. However, evidence from the government's investigation goes well beyond the conduct charged and shows that for more than 20 years, the Alexander brothers have, together and alone, repeatedly and violently raped and essayed dozens of victims. To date, law enforcement agents have interviewed dozens of women who reported being forcibly raped or essayed by at least one of the Alexander brothers, often after being drugged. This criminal activity spanned many years, both before and after Tal and Oren Alexander rose to prominence in real estate, first at a well-known international brokerage based in New York, and then at their own firm. This is a great point, Kate, because we talk about this a lot on this channel for some reason, because it keeps happening over and over. When the privileged don't get consequences as young kids, this is what occurs later in life. Discipline your children early, folks. Yep. And teach your daughters and your sons well. Do not ever leave your drink unattended. Do not accept a drink from anyone. Make sure your drinks are always things that you can open yourselves, because this is horrifying. And dating app, all of it. We're going to get into it. But Instagram, all of these people sliding into your DMs. Teach your children well, please. Evidence from the investigation, including multiple victim and witness accounts, shows that the Alexander brothers began engaging in acts of SV, which will be sexual violence, including gang rapes while still in high school in Miami, Florida. Footnote 3, Alon and Oren Alexander turned 18 on July 2nd of 2005, while Tal turned 18 on July 5th of 2004, shortly after each graduated from high school. The government has interviewed multiple women who report being raped by at least one of the Alexander brothers in high school in the early 2000s, including victims who were by groups of boys, including the Alexander brothers. Oh, I bet there's going to be some more indictments coming. Several of these victims were given alcohol by one of the defendants or other individuals who participated in the essays. Each of the victims that the government has interviewed from this period reported hearing that individuals involved, including Tal Alexander, talked about the assaults at school, boasting about, quote, running train, end quote, on their victims and saying that they wanted to, quote, do it again, end quote. Footnote number 4. As publicly reported, Oren bragged about doing so in his high school yearbook, writing that, quote, riding my first choo-choo train was his most memorable moment from high school. See, and here's an article, which is behind a paywall. I tried to get it. I just didn't have time. Everyone knew about the A-Team from New York Magazine. Running train is a term used to refer to a group of males having S with the same female, one after another. That is a term that I did not need to know about and that I will never be able to unsee. Who raised these thugs? Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Wild man's mom. Yes, ladies and men, be aware of your surroundings and situations at all time. These people hunt for prey. Future says exactly. Their parents enabled them. They should be completely ashamed and horrified by their lack of parenting abilities because they had multiple sons participating in this abhorrent and depraved behavior. And you know what? They were in court. The parents, they were in court sitting there. The father gave a little smile as he left the courtroom. They said, "How are you doing today, Mr. Alexander?" He's like, "Fine." As adults, the Alexander brothers' serial SA or SV, sexual violence, only escalated. After the defendants graduated from college, all 3 defendants moved to New York City, although they continued to also maintain homes in Miami and split their time between the 2 cities. Oren and Tal began working as real estate agents at a prominent New York City-based real estate company. Alon attended New York Law School, then worked at Kent Security, a private security company run by his mother and uncle. Footnote 5 says, Alon graduated law school in 2012 and was admitted to the New York bar in 2016. His bar membership is currently delinquent. Alon does not appear to have ever practiced law. Well, it's one less thing for him to worry about, being disbarred. During this period, and at all times relevant to the indictment, the Alexander brothers engaged in a persistent pattern of STing and SA. This conduct included both pre-planned trips and events for which the defendants recruited women to attend and then AR'd and SA'd them, as well as the opportunistic grapes and essays of numerous victims who they encountered by chance. Isn't that great? So not only did they plan a lot of these things with their buddies, but also sometimes they would just assault women by chance. For the planned encounters, the Alexander brothers lured women to various locations with the promise of material benefits, such as travel, luxury accommodations, and events or parties in various locations, including the Hamptons, Tulum, and Miami. In many cases, the Alexander brothers arranged travel for the women, purchasing flights or arranging other transportation to their vacation destinations. The Alexander brothers also promised and provided accommodations for the women at high-end hotels or luxury vacation rentals. Footnote 6. These vacation properties were typically rented by the Alexander brothers and or their friends. At times, the Alexander brothers worked with party promoters to arrange to have women attend parties at their vacation properties. On many occasions, the Alexander brothers invited their friends and Oren and Tal's real estate clients to also stay at these properties. Then, during these trips and events, the Alexander brothers, alone, together, and with others, drugged and forcibly AR'd or SA'd their victims. Some victims reported symptoms consistent with being drugged after consuming a drink provided by one of the defendants. Several were unable to move or even speak, and some suffered significant gaps in their memories. What does that remind you of? Another case, the P. Diddy case, the GHB, roofies, also known as the date grape drug. The Alexander brothers used a similar playbook to commit R and SAs after chance encounters with women at nightclubs, parties, or other social events. After the initial meeting, the defendants lured the women to a second location and then forcibly AR'd her. Each of the defendants did this separately and on some occasions with the assistance of or together with another defendant. On some occasions, one of the defendants would meet a woman on a dating app or on social media and under the guise of exploring a potential relationship, invite the woman to his apartment before forcibly AR'ing her. In most instances, victims reported that one of the defendants gave them a drink, either at the club or social event or back at the defendant's shared apartment in New York City. After imbibing the drink, the victims experienced symptoms consistent with being unwittingly dosed with a substance that impaired their physical capacity, including their ability to move and or memories. Many victims told the brothers no or even screamed while the R's were happening, but on each occasion, the defendants ignored any verbal resistance. The government has spoken to dozens of women who reported being similarly AR'd by one or more of the brothers between 2005 and 2021. Are you revolted yet? Thank you, Blessed in Texas, for hanging around for 5 months, and Merry Christmas to you. Says thank you for covering this. Donnie Not Wahlberg, thank you. No, thank you. Thanks for hanging out for 3 months. Vicky Watkins, Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh, please, I didn't even start shopping yet. Really didn't. I have like at least 2 more weeks, right, Vicky? Reading is late. Dang. Rich and pretty, yeah. There's a lot of people who think Luigi Mangione is a pretty hot guy too, but that's the thing. Like, I don't understand. You're going to have to help me understand when we're done reading this, because his wife was a Brazilian model. I say was because she probably won't be his wife for long, although she's scheduled to give birth to their child any day now. Count A is the STing of victim number 1. And again, these are just a couple of the victims that the federal authorities are going to let the Florida authorities know about right now, just to keep them in custody. Don't let them go. Even if one of them agreed, I think it was Tall, who said, I can post $115 million bail right now. That's how much money these guys have. In or around the summer of 2011, a friend invited victim 1 to travel to the Hamptons to stay with her friends. Victim 1 accepted the invitation. She was living in Manhattan at the time and traveled by the Long Island Railroad from Penn Station to the Hamptons. Tall Alexander and another man were waiting for victim 1 and her friend at the train station and drove the women to their vacation house. Victim 1 had never met Tall Alexander before. After arriving at the house, victim 1 was given a glass of wine and drank about half of it before she began to feel unwell in a way inconsistent with drinking that amount. Victim 1's memory thereafter became hazy, but she had several memories of the night, or she has several memories of the night. Specifically, victim 1 remembers being held down by Tall while another man entered the room. Victim 1 also remembers being in a second location with Tall and the other man, and that a camcorder was set up. Victim 1's next memory is of waking up in the grass outside of the vacation house with a physical sensation indicating recent V penetration. I'm wondering now, I'm breaking from the document for a second to say, I'm wondering if these guys, kids, ever went to any of P. Diddy's white parties or any parties out there in the Hamptons. They ever crossed paths at all? Because the MO here, a little bit similar with regard to the same sort of substances used, perhaps. And kind of a small pond out there in the Hamptons during summers with all the super rich people. Kind of a small pond. They sold Jay-Z a condo. Yep, they did. You're right, Locust Sox. We brought that up before. Most likely, yeah. They never bring it up in here, I don't think. But it wouldn't shock me. When they are extradited, they will likely be in the same lockup as Diddy. Interesting. Count B, or B, as referred to in this letter for detention, is the STing of victim number 2. In or around August of 2016, victim 2 and her friend, individual 1, matched with Alon and Oren Alexander on a dating app. Victim 2 primarily communicated with Oren, while individual 1 primarily communicated with Alon. Alon and Oren invited victim 2 and individual 1, who were located in Illinois, to travel to stay with them in the Hamptons over Labor Day weekend, and offered to pay for flights for victim 2 and individual 1. Individual 1 and victim 2 agreed to go, and on September 1 of 2016, the Alexander brothers purchased early morning flights for the women to fly to New York on the following day. Messages located on Oren's iCloud account reflect the Alexander brothers exchanging messages about purchasing flights for victim 2 and individual 1 around the same time the Alexander brothers were booking the tickets on September 1 of 2016. Breaking from this for a second to say, what dating app do you think they were on? Doesn't say, but my money's on Raya. For those of you who don't know, Raya, Raya, is a very exclusive dating app that only like super rich or famous people can get on. You have to have I don't know if you have to have a recommendation or something. I don't know. I've read about it. I think Sharon Stone was on it at one point and some other celebrities. And people didn't even really believe that it was Sharon Stone, or was she just on Match or something? I don't remember. But Were they hooking up with like people who were influencers and, you know, they meet these guys on Raya and so they think, oh, well, they're rich. Well, but they actually are actually rich. And so they feel like somehow because they have a lot of money, that makes them safe. And they're offering to buy them plane tickets and fly them in. Disgusting. And here are their text messages, which always seems to be such a huge part lately. These indictments. Yeah, it's invite only for Raya, right? And now it's easier to get on, says Amy. Amy, are you on it? A lot of people have never heard of it. Alon, these are their text messages from, I guess, around the time they were booking the tickets on September 1st of 2016. Alon says, are we booking flights? First 3 on left. We split and try to orgy, then out. Tal responds, for sure. Last weekend, throw it up. Alon says, I agree. Oren? Oren says, all 4? Why not? 3 brothers in conversation. A few days prior, Tal exchanged messages with 2 party promoters on a group chat entitled Hampton's Hot Chicks. No, you can't make this up. You can't. You absolutely cannot make this up. That's what they were calling their group chats. Or this group chat anyway. Hampton's Hot Chicks. Arranging for hot women to stay at the Alexander brothers' Hampton's house that same weekend. At the end of the exchange, one of the promoters said, I want photos of the girls naked. Sounds like Proctor. Tal responded, LOL. Guys, we're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, there could be some complicit people in here, like the party promoters, like the other friends who you're going to see come up in these other text message chats. After victim 2 and individual 1 arrived in New York, the Alexander brothers transported the women to their Hamptons house by car and provided them with beds in a space shared with other women. What is this? Like The Bachelorette? I mean, The Bachelor? Is this like Love Island? They had just a space that was like bunk beds, like a hostel for all the women that they invited to come and like live together for their disgusting weekends. I mean, at that point, ladies, like you get there and you're like, does anybody say like, I'm out? Or do you get drugged before you can even say like, I'm out? Like, this is weird. It's a lifestyle, said my husband, mom. Mm-hmm. Love Island. Is that the show that I'm thinking of? Where they're all sleeping in the same room? Like in couples? Weird. The following day, the Alexander brothers hosted a party. During the party, Oren gave victim 2 a cocktail, and shortly thereafter, victim 2 began feeling strange and struggled to walk. Alon assisted victim 2 inside the house and took her to a bedroom to lie down. Sometime later, victim 2 woke up when Oren entered the room. Oren put on a, let's say, raincoat, pulled down victim 2's bathing suit, and climbed on top of her. Victim 2 was physically impaired and could not move. She also struggled to speak. Oren forcibly AR'd victim 2 and left the room, leaving her lying on the bed. When victim 2 woke up the next morning, she was still lying on the bed and her bathing suit was pulled down around her legs. Victim 2 disclosed the AR to individual 1, and they left the Alexander brothers' house that same day. So there's her witness, individual 1. If you're just joining, you may not want your children in the room, or anyone really. Put your earbuds in, because although I'm trying to be as delicate as I can with this subject, it's really not a very delicate subject. The charges are horrific. Other evidence, this is bullet point C, other evidence of ST and transportation for illegal SA. The evidence in this case also establishes that the defendants planned and paid for trips involving the interstate and international transportation of women on multiple other occasions. This evidence includes electronic communications, including from the defendant's own accounts. In one example from October 2016, just weeks after the Alexander brothers ST'd and R'd victim 2. They, along with a number of other individuals, arranged to transport multiple women to Tulum. Those of you who don't know, Tulum is a lovely place in Mexico. In a group WhatsApp entitled Lions in Tulum. All right, so we have hot chicks in the Hamptons and lions in Tulum. Not only did they cross state lines, they crossed international borders for their fun with hot chicks and lions and women in Tulum. In a group WhatsApp chat entitled Lions in Tulum, the Alexander brothers and other men attending the trip. Here's where some other co-conspirators may come in, unless they've already rolled over in exchange for their testimony. Discussed imports of women to Tulum for the upcoming trip, and discussed, among other things, splitting the cost of lodging and flights for the women that they plan to import, and providing drugs to the women that would make them more likely to engage in S, including cocaine, shrooms, and G. Based on the investigation, the government understands G to be a reference to GHB, which is defined in 21 USC section 841 as a date R drug. Below are some select messages from that chat. Must have been hard to select which messages to even find. Thank you, Live Laugh. I always have a tongue twister when I have to say your name. Live Laugh Toaster Bath for the 5. It's not an easy watch, but you have to watch Blink Twice by Zoe Kravitz. Her mom worked for Bill Cosby. It is literally a movie of this. Wow. Thank you. We always like good recommendations to watch outside of YouTube. Other things to watch when we're not watching YouTube. Thank you, Leanne, for becoming a new member. Welcome. And here are the select messages from the October 3rd of 2016 WhatsApp chat. Male 1, they're not naming these guys yet, which makes me think either they have yet to indict them or they're cooperating. Male 1 says, going to start collecting for the pot to fly biatches down. Alon says, there should be a fee per bang and after bang. Yeah, he said that. Male 1, starting to collect Venmo for girls' flights. I mean, this is just a side note, but did Venmo exist in 2016? That was like 8 years ago. I don't recall that, but okay. Oren says, oh yeah, what's the lineup? Need to pick winners. Oren says, can't be sponsor girls like ISIS. Male 1 says, LOL, it's going to be hard to get girls up to your standard. Oren says, just warn them your boys are hungry. Tal says, girls look fresh. Then on October 4th, the next day, then the very next day, Alon says, I think we should all bring chicks and not rely on promoters since we never met the girls. We need fun girls with good attitude. I'm sure we all met many recently this summer. Male number 2. I know you know some winners. Oh, so he names the guy and he's like, whatever, dude, I know you know some winners. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I'm just thinking like any of the chicks that you met during the summer, the fun girls with the good attitudes, are those the ones that you absolutely did not force yourselves on? Are there any that you didn't? Oh, sorry, Shari. I know this is horrific. It's horrific, but it needs to be talked about. Thank you. I know. Sorry, girl. Thanks for gifting. Appreciate you. Alon says, Hail Mary pass should be overload. Alon says, I say yes, chip in, and yes, bring others. Male 1 says, I don't want anybody being upset if they don't run a 10-man train. Alon says, I'm trying to cover all bases. Male number 1 says, I just need to handle drugs. Tal says, yes. Male 1 says, I don't want X around too much. Nothing gets done with that. Cocaine, shrooms, and G. X makes the girls want to chase the effing party. Then on October 13th, 2016, Tal says photographers, drugs, because I guess they're getting ready. What's the date? What's the date of this big Tulum Doesn't say what the date is they're supposed to go there, but these are all in October 2016. Mail 1 says, all getting worked on. Oren says, are all girls getting shipped out on Sunday? Shipped out like they are property. Like they are property. Cargo. Mail 1 says, yeah. Mail 1 says, feel free to extend a piece you like. Alon says, nut returns, end of trip. Oren says, just trying to make sure I get max returns. Was going to come for that Sunday night tax and make sure all girls make quota. Like they're talking about a sales meeting. Remember the smarmy looks of those twins that we just watched from that Florida state courthouse. Just so you remember, Alon and Oren are the twins. Tal is the 11-month older brother. Mail 1 says, LOL, the whole $500 on a flight? Oren says, no free rides under my watch. That's more than most of us ever spent on girls. Just want to make sure we get a good ROI. For those of you who are not in the sales world or the finance world, that's your return on investment. Looking for a good ROI. And then D, that's Sunday night tax. Yep. Yep. No ramifications for their behavior ever, I bet. Little cupcake. Mm-hmm. That's right. I'm baffled. I was just thinking, I can't imagine being one of their wives and finding all this out, reading. Yeah. We just looked at the Vogue wedding spread of Oren and his Brazilian model wife from 2023. They met in 2018, coincidentally at a hotel in Vegas. D, the defendant's effects to conceal their criminal conduct. Despite engaging in the offense conduct and other acts of SV for decades, until earlier this year, the defendant's conduct went largely unchecked. Indeed, the Alexander brothers knew that it was critical to ensure that none of their victims went public. For example, in January of 2021, Oren and Tal Alexander had the following exchange. Oren, start to think about reputation you want out there. We're on top of the game, and the only thing that can bring us down is some hoe complaining. Tal says, understood. Did someone complain? And even when victims did complain, the defendants took steps to stop victims from reporting. The government is aware, for instance, of at least one occasion in which Tal and Oren filed a police report alleging harassment against a woman who has described being forcibly digitally penetrated by Tal while Oren was in the room. Tal also threatened that victim with a defamation lawsuit if she did not telling people that he and Oren had SA'd her. And at least one other victim reported that Tal made threatening statements to her after she told other people that he drugged her. In March of 2024, multiple lawsuits alleging misconduct and assault against the Alexander brothers were publicly reported. In response to the public accusations, Alon Alexander began compiling files on each publicly identified victim and several who had not made public accusations as part of an apparent attempt to discredit their accusers. The government's investigation of the defendant's obstructive conduct is ongoing. They had files on every single one of these women. And that is oftentimes how these federal criminal investigations get started as a result of civil lawsuits. That's what happened with Diddy. People have been filing civil lawsuits against him for a long time. Miss Jessica says, you should see the NDAs I've seen. Oh, Miss Jessica, do tell. Section B. The defendant's wealth and foreign ties. The defendants each have access to significant financial resources. Oren and Alon Alexander are real estate agents who focus on ultra-luxury markets in Miami and New York City. In the early 2010s, Oren and Alon founded the Alexander team at their former brokerage. The Alexander team was responsible for securing significant brokered deals, including a nearly $240 million sale of a penthouse in 2019, which at the time was the most expensive residential sale in U.S. history. As we said before, that was located at 220 Central Park South, Manhattan. Shortly after the historic deal, an associated historic brokerage fee, Oren and Alon opened their own ultra-luxury real estate firm. As recently as May of 2024, that firm was involved in brokering a $14.3 million deal in Bay Harbor. That's Florida, but I mean, 14.3 million, that's like lunch money to these guys. All three defendants reside in high-value properties in Miami Beach and New York. Since about 2019, Alon Alexander has rented an apartment in a building that is part of Billionaires Row, a term referring to ultra-luxury skyscrapers near Manhattan's Central Park. Alon and Oren Alexander's properties in Miami Beach have direct water access and private docks. The defendant's family also has significant foreign ties, particularly to Israel. Their parents are from Israel, and the Alexander brothers frequently travel to Israel to visit family, conduct business, and for vacation. They also travel frequently outside the U.S. to other locations, often booking flights at the last minute or traveling by private jet or yacht. Maybe I was wrong and they don't have dual citizenship. I thought I read that somewhere, but I stand corrected if that's not true. Argument 1, applicable law. Under the Bail Reform Act, 18 U.S.C. 3141 at sec, the court may order a defendant's detention pending trial upon a determination that the defendant is either a danger to the community or a risk of flight. A finding of risk of flight must be supported by a preponderance of the evidence. A finding of dangerousness must be supported by clear and convincing evidence. The Bail Reform Act lists four factors to be considered in the detention analysis. This is federal law. Number 1, the nature and circumstances of the crimes charged, including whether the offense is a violation of Section 1591. 2, the weight of the evidence against the person. 3, the history and characteristics of the defendant, including the person's character, past conduct, and financial resources. And 4, the nature and seriousness of the danger to any person in the community that would be posed by the person's release. The concept of dangerousness encompasses not only the effect of a defendant's release on the safety of identifiable individuals, such as victims and witnesses, but also the danger that the defendant might engage in criminal activity to the detriment of the community. Evidentiary rules do not apply at detention hearings, and the government is entitled to present evidence by way of proffer, among other means. Where a judicial officer concludes after a hearing that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of the person as required and the safety of any other person in the community, such judicial officer shall order the detention of the person before trial. Additionally, whereas here the defendant is charged with ST in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1591, in other words, an offense under Chapter 77 of Title 18, it shall be presumed, subject to rebuttal, that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of the defendant as required and the safety of the community. Point 2, discussion. Have you heard enough yet? Hi, Donnie. That's not a dumb question. Why do Florida cases go to the Southern District of New York? Well, they don't necessarily. So Florida has arrested them on state charges for things that they did in Florida. New York, at the same time, had a grand jury indict them for sex trafficking, which is a federal charge. And so that, therefore, these are the two jurisdictions involved in this particular case. It's not something that happens all the time. It seems like it. It seems like it lately, though, right? And maybe the reason for that is because many, many very high net worth individuals have residences in New York and Florida. Florida has no state income tax, I believe, and a lot of other tax benefits. So a lot of very, very wealthy high net individuals have chosen Florida as their state of residence and also own properties in such places as New York and other international places. But it's a good question. It doesn't always happen that way. It just seems that lately we're seeing it. Thanks, Donnie, not Wahlberg, for the question. And the 5. New York City and Miami. Yep. Just me says the Southern District of New York has a great conviction rate. Yep. Is a rebuttal where they have to prove them wrong? Yes. They have to rebut the evidence, meaning, so it shall be presumed subject to rebuttal, meaning that we're going to presume this, but if you've got any other evidence, defense attorney, that, you know, your guys are definitely going to show up despite their massive wealth, close ties to Israel, private jets, yachts, and other things, you know, you can try and prove us wrong, but good luck with that, basically, is what is happening here. Yeah. So 2 cases. One is in federal court in New York because of the crossing over of state lines, because they flew these women into New York to commit these heinous, horrible, disgusting acts. They all have, right. The office is in it with Diddy, Epstein, once upon a time, and now these guys, all ties to Florida. Yep. That's why. That's why. And Siobhan says, yeah, Florida, California, New York, New Mexico, Michigan. Michigan? All top trafficking states. All right. Discussion. For the reasons set forth below, the defendants pose a significant danger to the community as well as a serious risk of flight. This is especially true given the nature of the criminal conduct and the strong weight of the evidence. The defendants therefore cannot overcome the statutory presumption in favor of detention in this case. So here's exactly what you're asking about. And here's the argument of the feds. A, weight of the evidence. In considering the danger and risk of flight presented by the defendants, the court is required to consider the weight of the evidence against the defendant. The Alexander brothers are charged with serious and violent crimes. As alleged in the indictment, the defendants have participated in a ST conspiracy using force, fraud, and coercion over a period of at least 11 years. They're saying, though, that it did actually go back probably 20 years or since they were in high school. In addition, they are each charged with at least one substantive count of ST, and all of the counts in the indictment carry a presumption of detention. As detailed in this letter, the evidence in support of those charges is strong. It includes the anticipated testimony of numerous victims and witnesses, electronic evidence, physical evidence, and documentary evidence, among other things. In particular, many of the victims' accounts strongly corroborate each other, recounting similar experiences of SV from the Alexander brothers, despite occurring in different settings, states, and even different decades. And I'm going to point out to you, those of you who have been following me for a long time know that I handled the cases against the Catholic Church here on Long Island when the scandal broke all the way back in 2002 against the Diocese of Rockville Center, which is the diocese encompassing Nassau and Suffolk counties on Long Island. When that scandal broke of the clergy SA scandal, I represented at least 50 or 60, I can't remember how many, men and women who were victims as children, most of the time as children, against priests and other clergy here on Long Island. And same thing held true. It so happened that one of the most prolific abusers was the chaplain, turned out to be the chaplain at my all-girls high school when I was in high school. So I took these cases obviously very personally. Nobody would believe that Father so-and-so could have ever possibly have done this. And when I started receiving phone calls from all over the country from men, because this priest targeted boys who didn't know each other over a period of 20 years at all different high schools, telling me the same exact story about how he would have them come and sit on the couch next to him. He would open the newspaper onto their laps. Same exact story, same exact MO from all over the country. The evidence was too much to believe that it wasn't true. None of these men, they were all in their 40s and 50s at the time, some in their 30s, knew each other. None of them even went to the same high schools. And they all had the same story. Back to the letter, says the government only expects the number of victims and witnesses to continue to grow, given that the investigation, which is now public, is ongoing. The electronic evidence in this case also provides powerful proof of the defendant's guilt. The government has obtained evidence from the Alexander brothers' iCloud accounts, social media accounts, and dating apps. They've got it all. They've got it all. Just today, during the execution of search warrants at the residences of each of the Alexander brothers, law enforcement agencies' numerous electronic devices, including cell phones, cameras, computers, and electronic storage devices. The electronic evidence reviewed to date, and that's just like that same day, includes messages in which the Alexander brothers arranged travel for victims, discuss providing drugs to women, and discuss Group S. The electronic evidence also includes photos and videos, many of them sexually explicit, and some depicting some of the Alexander brothers engaging in activity with the victims. Such evidence strongly corroborates the victims' accounts. They had video too. Just like Diddy. They had video. I mean, were they like, this is completely speculative because, these guys, these brothers, these Alexander bros, and I'm calling them bros for a reason. Think these bros just figured out how to do this on their own? Or do you think they had maybe some kind of a mentor? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Did they have a mentor that taught them the ways and means of how to do this? Wow. Just wow. Not accusing anybody, not accusing any family members or anything. But look, Diddy had a lot of those white parties out there in the Hamptons. Birds of a feather? I don't know. Epstein? I don't know. Maybe Sydney, right? I mean, these guys are at a certain level of wealth, and a lot of these really wealthy people were their clients. I wonder, right? Kimberly wants to know, was it the same promoter that Diddy used? Diddy, I think you mean, not Daddy. I'm not accusing their father, Shlomi, of anything. Just so we're clear. Spitballing. None of that information from Epstein's list black book has ever been made public. Right? Delana, never been made public because, Jeffrey Epstein unalived himself in the Manhattan Correctional Center. Right. Together with the other records in this case, including social media records, travel records, and financial records, the weight of the evidence counsels powerfully in favor of detention. What have we learned by following all of these cases, by looking at the court documents? Because that's what we do here. We're legal-based channel, so we're reviewing court documents, looking at the evidence that the prosecution has. When are people going to realize that what you put out there on the internet is there forever? What you put out on your social media is out there forever. Just because you delete a post doesn't mean it's gone. I've been teaching my kids this since before they had social media. Just because you delete something doesn't mean it's gone forever. The college admissions people are going to be looking at your social media. They're going to be, maybe. These idiots are on, WhatsApp and regular text and all their dating apps looking for victims, or sometimes they just found them by chance. Their cell phones pinging because they're taking their cell phones with them wherever they go. I think eventually I watched I looked at a trial because I did a show this week with Josh Ritter, and it was out of South Carolina. This boy, I don't want to call him a boy because he looks so young. Tim Harrington was on trial for as Kathy from Gossip Rumor and Innuendo would say, the unfortunate unaliving of another boy, an Ole Miss student that he had been having relations with. And Tim Harrington was on trial for capital murder down there. And his grandfather was a pastor. He came from a religious family. And it was a no body murder case because Jay Lee, the victim's body, had never been found. The way that he was allegedly caught was because his phone was pinging in all of these different locations. The defendant's phone was pinging through Snapchat messages back and forth to each other, through key swipes of coming in and out of the apartment building, CCTV of Tim Harrington like jogging out of a location where the victim's car was dumped. Video of him driving in a box truck. Video of him at Walmart buying duct tape, coming out of his parents' house with like a shovel and a wheelbarrow. Yeah, the jury came back and it was hung. The jury was hung. He was not convicted. I know. The third brother is arrested. They were all three arrested. With the just so the Harrington jury was hung. And I mean, there was a lot of circumstantial evidence on that case. They planned to retry him. But that was also something interesting because I wanted to show you guys how this judge in South Carolina, it was South Carolina, right? I've covered a lot of cases this week. One was in Mississippi, one was in South Carolina. How he handled this mistrial. Jury came back with 3 different notes. And then the judge said, he asked them, what's your split? How are you split? Do you think if I send you back, you're ever going to come back to a verdict? And they said, no. It was Mississippi. Okay, thank you. Mississippi, because there was 3 cases I've been covering this week. One was in South Carolina. So this was in Mississippi. So same state as Carly Gregg, right? Abby remembers when Jay Lee went missing. Very, very sad case. So this Mississippi judge, it was a really old courthouse, like beautiful, like regal courthouse. The prosecution's theory was that Tim Harrington killed Jay Lee because he was afraid that Jay Lee was going to out him and his parents would not love him anymore. And so that's why he must have killed him. That was their motive. But the jury didn't buy it, even despite all of that circumstantial evidence. And there was so many other suspects that were initially, oh, thank you. Did you like that show? I thought it was a great show. So many other suspects that law enforcement quickly cleared within like 2 weeks. South Carolina was the drunk driver who took out the bride. Yeah. I'm trying to think though. I think with Josh, I did 3 different cases and that was a hard show to do because I had to do a lot of research because those were like 3 cases that I hadn't been following. P. Diddy and Tim Harrington and one other one. Now I can't remember what it is. But in any event, I'm starting to think that people are going to get smart, right? And they're going to leave their phone home when they go out and commit a crime. Okay. Let's just say, like, I'm not trying to give anybody any advice on committing crimes because nobody should commit crimes or unfortunate unalivings, as Kathy. Go sub up to Kathy, by the way. Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. Great channel. Hilarious. She's got funny 20-minute videos every morning of all things true crime. And she makes us laugh at things that otherwise make us cry. People are going to start leaving their cell phones home. So in this Harrington case, that's what happened. One of these witnesses, one of these alleged suspects, was quickly cleared because his phone was home all morning when Jay Lee was killed. How do you clear somebody because their phone is home? I know. I try, Ashley. I try and do a lot of research. Thank you. Before I go on anybody's show like that, because you know you don't want to say the wrong thing or you like not have your facts straight. Right. Hedgehog in spaces. But if you don't have a pattern of leaving your phone home, that's why I think that like, right. But leaving it home it was breaking the pattern of behavior. So that will trap people as well. But this guy I'm saying in the Harrington case was quickly cleared because his phone didn't leave his house. And I don't think that that's like a good enough reason to clear somebody. And they were saying he was home watching corn on his phone. But again, is that what it was? Yeah, one was about Luigi Mangione, thank you, and one was Jay-Z, right. So because it's been a full-on Karen Reed week and Daniel Penny week, which, by the way, today Daniel Penny is at the Army-Navy game with President Trump and JD Vance, and there was like some live cam that was like following it on YouTube. There was 10,000 people watching, and all it was like a camera focused on the box of them talking behind glass, and I didn't even see Daniel Penny. People all over YouTube are using her line about shut up classes. She's great. Kathy's great. So I'm just saying, how do you quickly clear a guy because his phone was at home? I don't know. Right. Will call magic. Yes. Robert Tellis left his phone home, but he was convicted. But then there was actual evidence found. Yeah. Like all those pictures and all that stuff. And he was shoe shamed. And that Tellis trial, that was a good one. Evidence against Harrington was circumstantial but strong. Yeah. But the jury hung. And that judge handled the mistrial in a far different way than Judge Cannoni. Yeah, he's there. Okay, the little part that I started watching, I couldn't see him there, but I heard he's there. Penny. How many people have two phones, Leanne? Great point. Burner phones are a thing. Self-snitching is the thing. Yep. Everyone smash the like button while we're thinking about it. Thanks. All right, now they're going to argue dangerousness. Okay. So remember, this is a letter from the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York to the federal judge in Florida saying, here's all the reasons why you should not let them out. here's all the reasons why. Point B is dangerousness. The defendant's danger, along with Alon and Oren Alexander's, has been demonstrated repeatedly and goes well beyond the charged offense conduct. Well beyond the charged offense conduct. As set forth above, the Alexander brothers' serial SV began far earlier than the period of the charged conspiracy. The government's evidence shows that they have been R-ing girls and women alone, together, and with other men over a period of at least 20 years. Already, the government has identified dozens of victims of the Alexander brothers' SV, and the evidence indicates that there are more. To commit the charges offenses as well as other serial acts of SV, the Alexander brothers drugged victims, rendering them incapable of either consenting or resisting. Then, when the victims were physically compromised or incapacitated, the defendants held them down and forcibly AR'd them. Some victims said no or stop, others screamed, but the defendants did not stop. They ignored their victims' distress, their obvious unwillingness to engage in S activity. Numerous victims described being physically restrained or held down while being AR'd by the defendants, and likewise described the R's as aggressive and violent. Multiple women described being terrified that the Alexander brothers were going to hurt or even kill them. These victims' only goal in that moment became to survive. Horrifying. And how many other potential victims could there be who are afraid to come forward? Further, drugging unwitting victims is in and of itself incredibly dangerous. The defendants had no way of knowing how a particular victim might react to the drugs. Indeed, multiple victims required medical assistance in the hospital after their encounters with the Alexander brothers. Oh my God. I wonder if if rape kits were done on these women? I have so many questions. In short, this conduct is inherently dangerous, involved numerous victims, and underscores why the safety of others and of the community cannot possibly be ensured without the defendant's attention. The fact that the Alexander brothers, SV, continued for so long despite several victims' attempts to report their assaults to others demonstrates that the Alexander brothers cannot be trusted to stop their violent assaults, even in the face of criminal charges. The evidence demonstrates that for decades, the Alexander brothers have acted with apparent impunity, forcibly R-ing women whenever they wanted to do so. In short, the defendant's propensity to SV and to facilitating the SV of each other cannot reasonably be prevented through bail conditions. The SV alleged occurred behind closed doors in the defendant's apartments and homes, hotel rooms, and other private settings. This is precisely the kind of violence that even strict conditions such as home incarceration cannot prevent. Exactly. Exactly. Oh yeah, I'll wear an ankle monitor and hang out at home. And then what? Just, just schedule your hookups for your home? Just be flying people in? In sum, the Alexander brothers' long history of violent conduct makes clear that even the most stringent bail conditions will not suffice to ensure the safety of the community. The Alexander brothers are serial violent rapists who have been drugging and forcibly R-ing women alone and together for years. They've used their power and wealth to identify victims, carry out their sadistic ST scheme, and to conceal their SV and prevent victims and witnesses from coming forward. Based on danger alone, the defendants must be ordered detained. C. Risk of flight. In addition to the defendant's significant danger to the community, they also present an extraordinary flight risk. The crimes with which they are charged carry significant penalties, including, on counts 2 and 3, a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years imprisonment and a statutory maximum sentence of life in prison. I don't think if this is true, innocent until proven guilty. If they're found guilty, I don't think they should ever, ever, ever see the light of day again. Ever. Because these women will have to live with this forever. Forever. I mean, among other reasons. Just one of the reasons. The possibility of a substantial sentence is a significant factor in assessing the risk of flight. Here, each of the Alexander brothers are facing at least 15 years imprisonment if they're convicted. Moreover, the incentive to flee is especially strong here because of the strength of the evidence in this case, including the accounts of dozens of similarly situated victims. As a result, the Alexander brothers face the very real prospect of spending a substantial portion of the rest of their lives in prison. The prospect for reputational harm also augments the risk of flight in this case. The nature of this case has the potential to significantly and negatively impact the defendants' reputations, in particular of Oren and Tal Alexander, who have carefully curated and protected their reputations through positive press and promotional campaigns. For example, the government is in possession of multiple video recordings created by Oren Alexander depicting Oren and Alon engaging in SA with at least one identified victim. Given the potential penalties here, both incarceration and reputational harm, the defendants have every incentive to flee to avoid prosecution and a public trial. The defendant's ample financial resources also create significant risk of non-appearance. As discussed above, Tal and Oren are successful real estate agents in the luxury market, have significant professional and social ties to other high-powered individuals, and regularly close large transactions that result in significant commissions. And each of the defendants lives a lifestyle supported by their extensive financial resources. Alon and Oren even live in private residences with direct water access to the Atlantic Ocean. All three defendants regularly fly on private jets, a means of travel that is more difficult for law enforcement to track. In short, if the defendants wanted to flee, they have the means to do so quickly and without detection. But note 7, based on the government's review of messages between the Alexander brothers, it appears that the brothers purchased a private plane in or about 2021. The location of this airplane is unknown. Finally, the Alexander brothers' strong foreign ties demonstrate their flight risk. The Alexander brothers have close family ties to Israel. While the current extradition treaty between the United States and Israel states in sum and substance that an Israeli national may be extradited for an offense committed prior to becoming a national, extradition from Israel is frequently a multi-year drawn-out process, at the end of which extradition to the United States is not guaranteed. If the defendants were to flee to Israel, they could attempt to significantly delay or even avoid extradition back to the United States. Based on the defendants' call history in recent weeks, the government is further aware that Oren Alexander has been in contact with another U.S. citizen who fled to Israel after being accused of sexual misconduct. Oh, well, so here's what happens. After the civil suits were filed in 2024, early 2024, they were probably like, oh, yeah, maybe the feds are going to be coming for us soon. Or maybe, some other state like Florida will be coming for us soon. But hey, in Florida, we can get out because, we've got lots of money. So there's our bail, right? We're just give them a couple $1 million and they'll let us out. And little do they know that the Southern District of New York was coming for him too. And they are further aware that Oren Alexander has been in contact with another U.S. citizen who fled to Israel after being accused of the same kind of stuff. Not saying if they're been accused of the same misconduct with regard to the same women as these guys, but he's like, hey, dude, what's good, man? What's good, bro? What's good, bro? You're in Israel, huh? What's going on? Like, are they going to extradite you? Because there are certain countries, and I'm not speaking, there are certain countries outside the United States who will not extradite for anything less than murder. Just a couple of, grape charges. They're not going to extradite you. Don't worry about it, dude. You're good. What's good? You're good. These foreign ties further support the need for the defendant's pretrial detention. 3, conclusion. As set forth above, Alon, Oren, and Tal Alexander pose an ongoing and significant danger to the community and present a serious risk of flight. The government respectfully submits that the defendants cannot meet their burden of overcoming the statutory presumption in favor of detention. There are no conditions of bail that would assure the appearance and compliance of the defendants or the safety of others. Accordingly, any application for bail should be denied. XOXO, Damian Williams, U.S. Attorney. And I think that is the same U.S. attorney who is prosecuting Diddy. Am I right? I have not, as you know, been covering that case the way some other people have been and the way that some of you may have been following it. So let me know if that is he. Let's go to the chat and see what you say. Hi, Rescue Puppy. Do you think other countries will have charges? Mexico? I mean, it's the only other country that they mention here is Mexico, is them taking the women to Tulum. I don't know. I don't know what other evidence they have. I'm sure that the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York would prefer that they stay here. But that's a great question. If the evidence comes out that other such things happened in other countries. Yeah. Hi, Olivia. That makes sense. Same division. See if I can get to that part of the smarmy. I mean, just look at these smarmy. Innocent until proven guilty. These are the twins again. With a little bit of Jesse Weber in the background. These court officers are like, yeah, good luck, dudes. Good luck, bros. Let's see if you get out of here today. One of them is in the suicide vest. The other one is not. I guess one of them is no longer a risk to himself.
Thursday, something happened that was really interesting. Oren interrupted the court to tell the judge why he couldn't be in jail.
Your Honor, my wife is 9 months pregnant, due any day now with our first child. Her family's in Brazil. She's counting on me to be with her during labor.
And because it's considered a dangerous crime, I'm required to hold you with no bond.
There's also a federal hold judge.
He does, Your Honor. He has a hold for the FBI.
Now, going back to what I mentioned,
He has a hold for the FBI. Did you see this? My wife's expecting me. Yeah. Yeah, this was on Friday. Yeah. Oh, Friday was just yesterday, right? Today's only Saturday. Yeah, they're not letting them go anywhere. They're not going anywhere. So let's listen. I'll let Jesse explain it to you a little bit because my voice is getting tired. And we love Jesse.
in the end, even despite the bond, these brothers actually won't be released because they are also under federal indictment and their brother is in federal custody, Tal. So they will be transferred into federal custody out in New York too. So with that in mind, now let's talk about the federal case first, and then we'll talk about the state charge.
Wait, Lori says, didn't Diddy give these guys up to the feds? I had no idea about that. That I did not know. My understanding is that because of the civil lawsuits that were filed earlier in the year, apparently some of these women went to the feds or the feds started investigating them. Let's listen. You're right, just me. Doesn't the hospital have doctors and nurses? Like, he really thought that was a good enough excuse. Like, okay, yeah, sure. We'll let you go. Oh, your wife's going to be in labor soon. Yeah, go on with your bad self. These poor wives. At least one of the other ones is also married. No, I think this is the first child, Oren, because he just got married. We just looked at his Vogue wedding spread. He just got married in like 2023. Why civil before criminal? Sometimes that's how the information gets out. Sometimes these women are like, nobody's going to believe us if we go to the feds. That's what happened with Diddy, right? So many of these civil suits came out and then the feds started getting involved. And it takes the feds a very long time, as you know, or may not know, to indict somebody. Civil suits can be filed like, I got a case today. I could file it by the end of the day in civil court, right? Lesser burden. And sometimes that's how they find out about it. Olivia says, your wife is pregnant based on the crimes alleged. Seems it'd be better for him not to be anywhere near her, especially because she's pregnant. Yeah. Ongoing investigation, right? There's a lot more here. Listen.
Because the federal case is a little bit more overarching. So according to U.S. Attorney General Damian Williams from the Southern District of New York, the Alexanders would allegedly drug and violently rape their victims.
I heard that part.
So there's 3 counts here. All the brothers are facing 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Tal is facing 1 count of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion on his own. But then he also shares another sex trafficking count of force, fraud, or coercion with his brothers with respect to another alleged victim.
The indictment alleges that between at least 2010 and at least 2021, the Alexander brothers worked together and with others to repeatedly and violently drug.
And you can find this press conference out there on the YouTube. I didn't want to play the whole thing for you because I really wanted to do the documents today because I think a lot of people have covered this presser and you can find it. But I think this is the same U.S. attorney who did the presser on Diddy, right? Did he do it? Did he?
Sexually assault and raped dozens of female victims. The Alexander brothers reside primarily in New York and Miami. And as alleged, Oren and Tal Alexander were real estate agents who focus on ultra luxury markets. Alon Alexander, who was Oren's twin, was an executive of a private security firm owned and operated by his family. As alleged, the defendants used their wealth and positions to create and facilitate opportunities to sexually assault women. In particular, Oren and Tal Alexander allegedly used their prominent positions in the real estate industry to induce women to come to events and parties. At those parties, and sometimes afterwards, the women were sexually assaulted by one or more of the defendants. As alleged in the indictment, for years, the Alexander brothers, sometimes with others, also arranged domestic and international trips to carry out their sex trafficking scheme. To recruit and induce women to come on the trips, they provided material benefits, things like travel to vacation destinations, luxury accommodations, and access to other high-end experiences.
Yeah. Girls,
Alexander
don't let these guys
brothers
slide into your DMs. Don't. Oh, hey, would you like to come to the Hamptons? I'll buy you a plane ticket. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Gen Xer Meg says same one did the Diddy press conference, and somebody said Vogue is not really a journalistic. Oh, it was just me, I think, who said that. We went to Vogue just for the wedding pictures. That's all we went there for. And that wedding was pretty elaborate, let's just say. It was a pretty gorgeous wedding from when Oren married his Brazilian model bride, who is stunning, by the way. The chuppah was stunning. The flowers were like probably $1 million. I don't really know. We just went there for the wedding pictures, not really for their journalistic excellence. So there's that.
Met their trafficking victims through a variety of means, in person, over social media, on dating apps, and through social connections. At times, they allegedly use their social connections or the guise of starting a relationship to lure women into their orbit. The indictment alleges that after
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if his wife, Oren's wife, I mean, if he brutalized her in any way. I just can't even imagine that. I can't. I mean, I'm just okay. Let's go back to looking at their smarmy faces in court.
He carries up to life in prison.
raped and assaulted
Hold on.
the women.
In terms of what they can face, according to the DOJ, sex trafficking conspiracy carries up to life in prison.
Good.
And sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion is 15 years to life. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, why does Williams look so familiar? Well, it is because he is the United States Attorney General for the Southern District of New York, who is actually prosecuting at this time Sean Diddy
yeah.
Combs.
All right.
Yes,
It's the
remember
same
when
guy.
he
Yep.
announced those charges at
As
a
we
press
thought.
conference when Sean Combs was arrested. And as we know, Combs is facing a number of federal charges. He's facing racketeering, sex trafficking, prostitution charges,
I
currently
mean,
locked away.
the Hamptons connection to me is just too close to ignore. And there's these guys are revolt me. Absolutely revolting. And then he's going to talk about little blurbs of everything that we actually already went over. So there's that. I mean, I know they look like turtle suits, right? Every time I look at those, there's those like suicide gowns, but they do. They look like turtle suits to me too. I'm not the only one. Good. I mean, here's the superseding indictment. It's 8 pages. We're just going to look at it quickly. What we read before was the letter to the judge, which set forth a lot more detail. And so that's why I showed that to you first. But here's the superseding indictment. And this was filed 3 days ago in federal court in New York on the 11th. And here it's against all 3 of them. It's the United States of America against Alon Alexander, Oren Alexander. Those are the twins. And Tal Alexander, their 11-month-old older brother. And count 1, these are federal charges, remember, conspiracy to commit ST. And this is a count that involves all 3 of them for well over a decade. The defendants worked together and with others known and unknown. So there are others that are known and unknown that could be facing some federal charges as well. And we read all of this before, so we don't have to do it again. But this is just the overview of all of the things that we've already read about that are horrific and revolting. And this is their conspiracy. And then their background. They're all brothers. What they do for a living, real estate brokers. And this Alon, the son who worked for the parents' private security firm. Starting in at least about 2010, Alon, Oren, and Tal, and others known and unknown, operated a years-long sex trafficking scheme. And that they provided these women with material benefits, including domestic and international travel to vacation destinations, luxury accommodations, all kinds of things and stuff. And then they talk about what they need to talk about to make the charges stick. Their scheme, their deception, fraud, and coercion to cause victims to travel with them or meet them in private locations. The methods that they used, including drugging them, physical force, sometimes alone and sometimes together. They use their wealth and position to create and facilitate opportunities to R and SA women. In particular, on multiple occasions, Oren and Tal used their prominent positions in the real estate industry to induce other women to attend events and parties and to meet other women at those events and parties, whom one or more of the defendants later essayed. Mothers and fathers, lock up your daughters. Well, we talked about this, international travel. They worked with party promoters to arrange for women and also their friends in those text messages that we saw. Revolting. So here's the conspiracy charge. See if they just said, okay, so it's count 2, sex trafficking of victim 1. So the first count was sex trafficking, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking is the first count against all 3 of the brothers. Then we go to count 2, which is with regard to victim 1, who was more fully set forth in the letter that we read. That is only against Tal. Count 3 is with regard to victim 2. Sex trafficking a victim 2 by force, fraud, or coercion, which is against all 3 of the brothers. And then there are some forfeiture allegations, which could get very interesting. And they read as follows. As a result of committing the offenses charged in counts 1 through 3 of this indictment, Alon Alexander, Oren Alexander, and Tal Alexander, the defendants, shall forfeit the United States pursuant to Title 18 of the U.S. Code. Why can't I highlight, man? Section 1594, any and all property, real and personal, involved in, used, or intended to be used to commit or to facilitate the commission of said offenses, any and all property, real and personal, constituting or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of said offenses, and any and all property traceable to such property, including but not limited to a sum of money in U.S. currency representing the amount of property involved in said offense, and proceeds traceable to the commission of said offenses. They have to forfeit their property. Not just cash, but real estate. Remember what happened to Ruth Madoff? She was left like penniless. Considering that they used some of their own properties to commit these crimes. Their assets could be frozen, their bank accounts frozen. But if they can't locate or seize any of that property, then they are intending to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendants up to the value of the above forfeitable property. So that's interesting. What do they lose? Could be all their real estate holdings, all of their money, bank accounts, Leanne, all kinds of things and stuff. Melissa says 6 degrees of separation between them and Diddy. I'm sure maybe even less. What do you think? What say you, my friends? What say you? Big old dog says, imagine having all 3 of your sons locked up for life for doing this to women. I'm going to see if I can find that clip of the parents in court, or if it was a picture. Wait, hang on a second. There was like a little clip of the dad saying something like, hey, how are you today? He's like, oh, I'm good. It's well, this was from 2 days ago. Hang on. Take a look and see if it's in here. If it's not, talk amongst yourselves for a minute and I'll try and find it in another. This is Eyewitness News, ABC, New York.
A most disturbing crime, and a crime ring busted as well. The U.S. attorney in New York City accusing 3 brothers of sex trafficking for more than a decade. The siblings, who include 2 high-profile real estate agents, charged with working together to drug, sexually assault, and then rape dozens of women. Heinous is how federal prosecutors describe the crimes. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles live at the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan with the rather disturbing story. Darla.
Bill, as you mentioned, 2 of the 3 brothers are high-profile real estate brokers here in New York City. They are extremely wealthy and extremely successful, even once breaking the record for selling the most expensive penthouse in the country for $240 million. But they were all 3 of the brothers were arrested in Miami this morning on federal and state sex trafficking charges.
This conduct, as alleged, was heinous.
3 brothers synonymous with luxury, wealth, and elite social status, looking shocked and disheveled in mugshots Wednesday. Alon, Oren, and Alon Alexander indicted on 3 counts of sex trafficking.
Between at least 2010 and at least 2021, the Alexander brothers worked together and with others to repeatedly and violently drug, sexually assault, and rape dozens of female victims.
I started at Douglas Elliman in summer of 2008. So it's been a long time, and I rised in the ranks.
Oren and Alon are billion-dollar New York City real estate brokers. Alon, an executive at a family-owned security firm. But prosecutors called them sadistic in court filings, saying the brothers have a history of serial sexual violence, unrelenting when their victims said no or stop. Others screamed. The victims restrained or held down while being raped, describing the incidents as aggressive and violent.
For years, the Alexander brothers, sometimes with others, also arranged domestic and international trips to carry out their sex trafficking scheme.
The federal detention memo also says multiple women described being terrified that the Alexander brothers were going to hurt or even kill them. These victims' only goal in that moment became to survive.
These women were not cared for in any way at any point in the process.
And as they gained more prominence in the real estate industry, the indictment says Oren and Alon exchanged text messages to cover their tracks. Oren writing, "Start to think about reputation you want out there. We are on top of the game, and only thing can bring us down is some expletive describing women."
You could say ducking. We say
Alon
ducking
responds, "Understood. Did someone complain?" Now, again, all 3 of those brothers are being held in custody in Florida. 2 are in state custody because some of these federal charges align with state charges down there. A third is in federal custody. The federal prosecutor here in New York City is working with those local officials to bring them back to the Southern District of New York. They say that they are extremely dangerous and are asking for them not to be released on bail. An attorney for the brothers said no comment. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
No comment. Nope, no comment. I can't find the thing of the parents right now. But yeah, here's my Amazon link. If you guys, this is a great way, it's a free way actually for you to support the channel. You could just do your regular shopping through my Amazon link. Just click on that link and do your regular shopping. It's also in the video description below. And somehow they give me like credit for having you just click on my link to do your shopping, and not just the things I recommend, any shopping that you do. So thank you for that. Thank you, Cheryl, for being an amazing moderator and putting that up, and to all the moderators who are so amazing on this channel, because this is not an easy channel to moderate based on a lot of the hate that we've been receiving from people who feel a different way than we do on certain cases, especially like, the Karen Reed case. But, here's the, let's see. Well, the New York Post is reporting that these brothers boasted a client list that included many Hollywood A-listers, including Kanye, who bought Kim Kardashian a place in Miami for $14 million in 2018. As well as Ken Griffin, who's a hedge fund mogul. Tommy Hilfiger. Steve Madden. And they like to rub elbows with the rich and famous because, you know, they could. Because they had to hang around at the same places, and that's how they got all their wealthy clients. Like, you know, excuse me while I bend over and pick up that name you just dropped. Olivia says, fortunately, with the Karen Reed case, we have the feds on our side. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. So did they think they were Epstein 2.0? I don't know. But here's the thing. They're going to be in the same lockup as Diddy. And yeah, I think he did. But also, if Luigi Mangione has any federal charges coming and he gets extradited to New York on federal charges, which is possible, he could be in the same lockup too. And maybe if we, this is a joke, maybe we could get Luigi on the unaliving, unfortunately, of these three guys, and then we'll just call it even. How about that? Anyone? How soon will they start singing? I don't think they're going to, I don't know, Melissa. That's a good point. James Hare is ducking outrage. Well, they're trying to get them back to New York, Olivia. They're in Florida right now, but only on state charges. So because the feds have filed charges in New York, that's what they're trying to do. This letter that I read was about telling the judge, please do not let them out on bail, because one of them offered $115 million. He's like, I got $115 million right here. See what I got in this hand? Why don't you let me out with this hand? And, you know, just give me like a ankle monitor and whatnot, and I'll be good. I'll come back. I promise. And the judge was like, no, because there's a federal hold because this letter came in. The Miami attorney that's representing him is this guy named, wait, come on, don't do that. StreamYard, you and me, we're going to have problems. His name's Joel DeNaro. He's their Florida attorney, and he says that any intimate relations that they had with these women were consensual. And they are expected to be transferred to the same New York City federal court that indicted rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs and deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein on sex trafficking charges. So there's that. And that's where we are so far with these guys, you guys. As soon as the indictment comes out on Luigi Mangione, which it has not yet, we will cover that. Let me know what else you want to cover, because there is so much stuff to cover right now. That's right, Siobhan. It is after dark. It's dark. It's getting dark here at like 4 o'clock. Yeah, we do. We need to get some more likes going on here. So, I mean, Diddy is like, I find this story, for me personally, a lot more interesting than Diddy, because I think that Diddy was just like the worst kept secret in Hollywood for like over a decade. And like everyone knew that this was coming eventually. Like these guys, I need to know more. I need to know more about these guys. Exactly. Like, we're going to believe any of that was consensual? They might, Olivia. They might. You know, he's currently only charged with second-degree murder in New York, and I hear people freaking out about that. This is about Luigi. Olivia says, do you think they'll indict him on any federal charges? So first-degree murder in New York only applies to a very narrow set of circumstances. It has to be like if you kill a police officer or law enforcement or a judge. There's very, very narrow categories of first-degree murder. Terrorism is one of them. But second-degree murder in New York is like first-degree murder everywhere else. It's just that New York has a separate class for first degree. But if they do indict him with federal charges, he'll be in the same lockup. Hence the, that'll be just interesting. Suzanne Simpson in Texas, thank you. I have a lot of documents on that. And for some reason, it just has not gotten me to be able to pay the amount of attention to it that it needs. But a viewer did write to me and say, please cover this, because Suzanne was my neighbor and we were friends. And so I promised I would. So thank you for that, Peppermint. Also, somebody said, Mike said, have you heard of the Karen Reed case? Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I have. And what's also interesting, Music Mike, is that apparently on Friday, the SJC in Massachusetts dropped an opinion about free speech and protected speech. And so it seems like their opinions are coming out, even though their session has already ended. So I do stalk that docket. And if so, if the Karen Reed appellate opinion comes out soon, of course, we're going to have to break and drop what we're doing to cover that. So it's possible because they just dropped some opinions like yesterday, Friday the 13th. Elizabeth, thank you, Elizabeth Mullins, Lupus Lady, for raising my hand in support of my joke. Thank you. I'm just, sometimes we got to cry. I mean, sometimes we got to laugh or we're just going to cry. Sydney Collins as a CEO should be like any other layperson, so trumped up charges shouldn't apply. I think though, and I don't know, Sydney, because I haven't really done a deep dive into like the possible charges, but it could be because he came from another state into New York. It could be laying in wait. It could be, in the commission of another felony is another category. So I'm not saying that because he's a more important person, or people may think that because he's, some rich CEO, that they would trump up the charges to federal, but there are some narrow categories that it could fit into, right? Yeah, wow, everybody's going to be the same place. There's a gag order in the Suzanne Simpson case. I have documents, I have stuff, I have things. Gag orders don't apply to the public; they apply to the attorneys, but and the parties and perhaps witnesses, but not to people like me. Yeah, exactly, Ranger Joe. These cats make the priests look like saints. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and this is interesting too. My father's keeper, right? New York bail reform makes sure that anybody with sex trafficking charges has no bail. Yeah, these are going to be federal charges, so for sure. But here's the thing about Luigi, right? If Luigi gets extradited to New York on just state charges, is Alvin Bragg going to be like, oh yeah, we'll just let him out with an ankle monitor and tell him to come back? Just set his bail really high because his parents are apparently worth $100 million. Alvin Bragg needs to, maybe he learned his lesson from the Daniel Penny case. I don't know. That SJC decision, says Olivia Nile, is huge for the First Amendment in Massachusetts, especially for anyone charged with witness intimidation charges. I have it. I have not fully read it yet, but I will. If you guys want to go over that on a live stream, I will go over that decision with you. Let me know if there's enough interest. I will go over that decision. I actually had it pulled up and I had so many tabs open that I had to close it. Thank you, Little Cupcake, who is reminding everyone in order to receive notifications, please hit the subscribe and the bell. It is free. And also, you need to enable notifications on your phone. Will call magic. New York City courts are weird compared to other courts. Their county courts are called Supreme Courts. Well, New York City doesn't have counties but boroughs. Well, here's what's weird about it. Our lowest court is our Supreme Court. So Nassau Supreme, Suffolk Supreme, Manhattan Supreme, that's the lowest court. And then our next appellate, first appellate level is the appellate division. And then the Court of Appeals is our highest court. So yeah, it sounds weird if you're not from here. And also district court is a criminal court that has lower charges that are not felonies. Thank you. Humor is healing. Humor is healing. I agree. All right. So let me know in the comments and hear what you want to cover this week, because there's a lot of it. There's Luigi Mangione, which I have learned is the correct pronunciation. 3 syllables, Mangione. How do I know that? Well, because his cousin Nino Mangione is a politician in Maryland. A politician in Maryland who, ironically or not, was fighting to have the death penalty reinstated in Maryland, not but a few months ago. You're definitely interested in the SJC decision? Okay. All right. No, I am interested in Koberger. I'm totally interested in Koberger. I just don't think that nothing's happening until next summer. So I think we have some time on that. When the trial happens, I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff about Koberger. Yes, on the SJC decision. Excellent. Thank you to Leanne for gifting a membership. I appreciate you oh so very much. All right, so let me know. Yes, on the SJC decision. Okay, it's not the Karen Reed, though. It's another decision in Massachusetts from the appellate court about expanding or narrowing free speech, and whether free speech, I can't really even say because I didn't fully read it yet, and my brain is only in this place right now. Samantha Jones is here. Kim Cattrall, my favorite. Thank you for the 20. Love you and your show. Been watching for a while. Always looking out for you. Thank you, Samantha Jones. Big fan. Big fan. I could have Andrea on at some point to do a background on Kober. Yes, I could do that. That's a great idea. Oh, sweetie. No, thank you, Samantha Jones. So much. All right. So let me know what you guys want to watch, what you want to hear, what you want to listen to for tomorrow. I don't know what, hopefully expanding free speech. Yes, it does. It narrows the, way in which someone can be prosecuted for what they say. Right? Melissa's wondering what these three brothers, the Alexander bros, did, what their mother did to make them hate women so much. I don't know. I just, here's what I need help understanding. Maybe you can help me before we leave in the next couple of minutes. Why would these three guys who seemingly have everything, they grew up with money, they're not hard to look at, they're good looking men, they grew up to make tons of money, they have everything they could possibly want. Why would they risk it all for these perverted crimes and forcing women into doing such things when, quite frankly, they may have been able to find women who wanted to be in relationships with them? What the hell? What the duck, my friends? What the duck? Thanks, Amanda. Says we want you to cover anything. We're here for you. Thank you, Amanda. We appreciate you. Power. Abby says power. The thrill of power over another person, says Sydney. Did something happen to them when they were children to make them think that this was normal behavior? Because a lot of deviants you see that with, right? If something happened to them when they were a kid to make them think this is just normal. Like, but like the collusion between the three brothers and the just so revolting. Well, I mean, maybe you don't think they're good looking, but I think a lot of people would think they were good looking, especially because they had very, very fat wallets. Right? Swiss Miss. I mean, especially because their wallets were so fat. A lot of girls might find them very attractive. Because, for some people, that does, help. Just as easy to love a rich guy, right? That's what some people say. Power, it's learned behavior. Hi, Lori, Life 360 for the win. They've probably never been told no before held accountable, says Haley. First class Chris says our culture. I'll allow it. Did they watch their father doing it too, behaving that way too? I don't know. New Hampshire woman, did it give them power they didn't have as children? Witnesses, they never felt love, so, go wild. Heather knew, says Heather Kettner says because they're the kind of guys that thought they'd never get caught. Melissa, they had everything, but they always needed more. I hope they never see the light of day. JBD TB1, because it's about power, not relationships. Lily says it must be like a drug. Is there a point where you just have so much money and you have so much everything and you have all the stuff and all the things that you could ever possibly want that you just become like a deviant? Yeah, like a drug. Melissa, yeah, something happened to them in their childhood, probably that would cause them to hate all. I don't know. I'm not gonna, we can speculate, and we're gonna say that this is speculation, but I need to know why they would risk it, why they thought they would never get caught. Kimberly says, I find it odd that they all have the same perversion personality. Yeah. Delilah, it's crazy. I just don't understand. Olivia, going back to that SJC decision, it narrows what can be perceived as threatening language and how language can be perceived, not just dependent on supposed victim's sentiment, but the speaker's intentions are very important. Yeah. So it's like in Massachusetts now, they've narrowed free speech to say it doesn't matter what the victim thought the speaker meant. It matters what the speaker intended. And that's a very important distinction. And hopefully that will cause them to revisit the witness intimidation statute in Massachusetts, which is just like, if you say something that hurts somebody's feelings, you can be prosecuted for witness intimidation. And I think that the rubber ducky hearing, or the charges on the rubber duckies being thrown out, is helping that. That's something else I have pulled that we've never looked at, is the hearing. Do you guys want to look at Rich Schiffer's hearing on another show? Did they go to boarding school? Witness says they began abusing others in boarding school, probably. I don't know. I have not heard of Rachel Henry. No, I have not. I have not. Kate wants to go over the rubber ducky hearing. Yes, rubber ducky, you're the one. I have it all ready. I even emailed Tim from Canton Community TV because I couldn't find it anywhere. And I said, you guys, can you give me the link to that hearing with the video? And they did. Olivia, if you want to come on, you know how to reach me. Peppermint's voting for a You and Me stream. Let me know. Does the appellate court work weekends? They're on break right now, but it may be that some of these opinions, Joanne, are getting typed up right now. That's why we're seeing them being filed. So there's that. You want a rubber duck? You want the duckies? Do you see how small the duckies are? They're like this big. This is how small those duckies are. Rich is great. I did see him on some other shows. Yes, on Daddy Duck. All right. Planet. I don't know what's up in the YouTube universe for tonight, but I don't think I'll be able to do it tonight. But, tomorrow I'm here for you guys. Gotta, start my Christmas shopping at some point, but I keep delaying it and putting it off. So it can be something that we do tomorrow. Of course, not when the Patriots are playing, but you guys can multitask, right? Can't you do two things at once? Can't you watch the Patriots and me at the same time? I think you can. I know you can. All right, let's see where we should go to. Hang on a sec. All right, let's see. Who's live right now that allows redirects? Because here's the thing. Some people do not allow redirects. You guys want to jump in on Nurse Kim? Nurse Kim is live. I think you should do a little cupcake invasion with Nurse Kim, because you know what? I love Nurse Kim. She's a sweetheart. I got to meet her recently when I was up there in Massachusetts. There's a fourth brother, Anne says. I believe he's the oldest, who worked with their dad and is allegedly estranged from his brother. Fascinating. Yeah, what happened? You're watching the Army and Navy football day. I know, Mike. Listen, Mike, I know you could do both, Mike. You do both. You do both. Young Jerks are not coming up as being live right now on my thing. But we're going to go to Nurse Kim. So you're going to do a little yes, order Christmas gifts under my Amazon link. It's below. And somebody was sending me a question about what kind of equipment that I use and stuff to tape and to do my show. And there's a list in there. If you click on my if you click on my link, there's also a list of the equipment that I use to my setup. And also there is a link for makeup and lipstick colors. People are always asking for that. Hair care products. People are asking for that. Mike's going to try and do both. The LA Times. That's what Kim is talking about right now. So there you go. There you go. What time do the Patriots play tomorrow? Yep. Daniel Penny's at the Army Navy game. We were there's Melanie Little's left swipe in StreamYard. Thank you so much. I got to look up and see what time the Patriots playing tomorrow, because they had a bye week yesterday, right? All right. So they're playing tomorrow at 4:25 p.m. We can get all of this done. Anything we need to do can be before 4:25 p.m. And it's a full moon tomorrow. That's why, if anybody's feeling a little, it's the full moon tomorrow. So yeah, we got to go live tomorrow for the full moon stream. And yep, we covered the Daniel Penny thing earlier. So we're going to do a cupcake invasion right now too. Nurse Kim, tell her that I said hello. Tell her cupcake invasion. When I end this stream, you will be teleported magically over to Nurse Kim's stream, where you can give her my regards, say hello, show her some love. And Radine, thank you so much for your Venmo. I appreciate you so very much. Wants to know what other men accompanied them on these trips. The Alexander bros. The bros. Thank you, Radine. Yeah, could they be celebrities, realtors, dealers? Could it be that they learned some of their schematics, perhaps, from the Diddy white parties in the Hamptons? Because they had Big House out there too. I have not seen The Following with Kevin Bacon. Not everyone's a Patriot fan. That's right. What's the 1:00 game? Mag, I can roll through both games just to make it fair. I can roll through both. I don't know what time the Jets are playing, but I know Scott's involved in that. But I know Scott can multitask. He can do both. He can absolutely do the both. And Leah, thank you for the Venmo. Who says thanks for covering. the Alexanders. I appreciate you very, very much. My Christmas fund appreciates you. My College for Twins fund appreciates you more than you know. Big Blue, go Giants. All right. We can't argue about football. I'm just upset about my Colorado Buffaloes. But you know what? We're going to the Alamo Bowl. So there's that. Thanks, Mike, for gifting a membership. I appreciate you. We're going to the Alamo Bowl or the Valero Bowl or whatever the hell they're calling it now. And that's the 28th of December. And when is the Heisman thing happening? Because in my opinion, Travis Hunter should be getting the Heisman. That's just my opinion, but I'm totally sticking to it. And like, if Travis Hunter doesn't get the Heisman, then who should get the Heisman? Nobody. Right? Right? All right. So let's do that. Olivia, if you want to come on tomorrow, text me, email me, reach out. We can do that. Thank you guys so much. Hunter should be a shoo-in. He should be a shoo-in. He should be a shoo-in. That's what I'm saying, Mike. That's what I'm saying. All right. Sco Buffs. Love the mods. Thank you to the mods. Thank you, Peppermint, for your $10 super sticker at the very end of the stream. Let's say hi to Nurse Kim on our way over there. Let me just see what time she started so that hopefully we're not too late. Then I think probably Aiden has a show at 9 usually on Saturdays, but I cannot confirm. Anyway, Kim started how long ago? Let's see. Oh, only 40 minutes ago. So you could do that. All right. Thank you, moderators, for keeping it classy. These Alexander Bros better go away forever. Thanks, Olivia. Olivia, you're being pressured into it now by all of the fans. All the fans are pressuring you. Think we should do it. Let's do it. Smash the like button on your way out, even if you're hate watching, because negative engagement is still engagement, right, my friends? Thanks, mods. Thanks, cupcakes. Thank you, viewers, replay viewers. Thanking everyone. And as always, stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. It is so not hard. Really, it's so not hard. We're doing a cupcake invasion at Nurse Kim. And thank you, Kat Randall, for voting me the best host of the year, most classy chat of the year. We try. I'll see you tomorrow. So you want to have your bell set. Let's go. Cupcake invasion on Nurse Kim. Buckle your seatbelts, buttercups, in 3, 2, 1.